Hey everybody, and welcome to another tutorial in the ArcDevKit tutorial series. Today we're going to be going over how to make a dino. In the last tutorial you guys saw, I made a jerboa that was rideable. It wasn't normally rideable. In this tutorial I'm just going to be showing you guys how to make a new dino and add it to your primal game data. In the next tutorial I'll show you some advanced methods to use on those dinos, but from here we're just going to start with the dino. First thing you're going to do is you're going to create a new dino folder. We're going to need to pick some sort of dino to start with. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick something simple, like a Rex. We're going to go into the primal, we're going to go into dinos, scroll down until you see Rex. We're going to copy the skeletal mesh, we're going to copy the unsaddled character BP, the diffuse, the ambient occlusion, the diffuse for the head, the ambient occlusion for the head, and the normals for the head and body. We're going to drag those up into our dino folder. It might take a minute because when moving stuff like this it sometimes takes a second for it to copy. The more files you try and copy, the longer it'll take. Okay, so once we're in there we're going to want to rename them. We're just going to name this Bob. Just rename everything to have your new name. You want to make sure to keep everything categorized so that you know which one's the BP, which one's the skeleton, etc. For these body diffuses, we don't even need to really name them anything special because anything different from the original will work. I grabbed these diffuse files because you guys want to know how to add a new dino in, so I thought I'd start it off with showing you guys how to make a skittle colored dino. You will need both the body and the head diffuse because if you just use the colorization from the diffuse it won't work. First thing we're going to do is we're going to create the material. I'm going to go to right click the diffuse and create material. We're just going to save that. After we add in, this is the body diffuse, so we're going to want to go to the normals for the body, link that in to the normals file. We're going to take the occlusion for the body, put that in for the ambient occlusion, and we're going to click save. Next we're going to create a material for the head. Going to go up to create material. Going to double click that. We're going to add in the normals for the head, the ambient occlusion for the head. If you missed the tick at all, that was a good explanation of this one. It'll just pull up an extra thing. Just click again and drag it again to the ambient occlusion. At this point, it's just going to be the normal colors of a T-Rex. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the diffuse of the material that you created out of. We're going to double click that. We're going to go down to, this is just to make skittle colored ones. This is like Mystic Academy, Anukai Genesis, and Art Comes Alive. You're going to go to saturation. You're going to type in 2 or 3. 3 will make it higher. 2 will make it about, it'll be more vibrant, but it won't be as vibrant. Then we're going to need to change the hue in the diffuse. It takes a while to change the saturation value and the hue value, so if it seems like it froze up, it's because it did freeze up. That's just the dev kit. After a couple minutes, it'll come back. This could be utilized for any of the dinos, like this tutorial, so any dino you want to make, just follow this same tutorial and you can pretty much start going into things. And the next tutorial I'll make this dino a little bit different and show a more advanced technique of being able to summon it in. See how it changed it to a more vibrant brown? That's because originally that's what the color is. We're going to change it to like 100 for the hue, which will take another second. You'll just wait for this box will disappear once it's already rendered out. We're going to have to do the same thing, by the way, to the head diffuse, just to match this color. I'm using 100 for the hue and 3 for the saturation. So I'll just do that again in the head once this is done. It takes this long every single time I try to take a dino and change it. See how it changes it to a nice vibrant green? We're going to go in, and we're going to go into the head diffuse and do the same exact things we did before. I'm just going to start with the hue. And then I'm going to change the saturation to 3. It'll take another second. I apologize for this not being able to go any quicker, but there is no option in making this render faster when you change these diffuse. I could do it in Photoshop in another tutorial if you guys want me to, which takes a lot less time. But this is mainly for the basic users that don't have Photoshop. Also, you can change like the eye and everything like that. I'll do that in the next episode. We're going to go up to saturation, change that to 3, so it matches the body. Take another second. This is probably the longest part of making this dino. If you forget these normals and the ambient occlusion, though, your dinos will not have any shading and they will be flat textured. So make sure you always remember these normals and the ambient occlusions. If they don't have an ambient occlusion, just use the normals. The ambient occlusion just adds some nice shadow. Now that we have both our diffuses, we're going to save that. We're going to double click our skeletal mesh. And we're going to take the body, we're going to put that where the body is. And we're going to put the head where the head is. It'll turn your dino gray because it needs to render out everything. What you need to do is you need to double click your materials. You need to save those again. This is since you added them to a skeletal. If you have a slower computer, the compiling and the saving might take you longer. Even though this seems like a little bit longer, it's actually running on a fast PC, so it's mainly just the dev kit slows it down. We're going to save the other texture, which is the head. We're going to go back up to the skeletal mesh. You see we have a nice green T-Rex. We're going to save that. We're going to go into the character BP. We're going to scroll down to where it says the skeletal mesh. Link that in. As you can see, we have a green T-Rex. This is exactly what ACA would have done, except they probably would have spent some time in like Photoshop, but it's the same thing. So what we now have a new dino that can be added. We're going to go to defaults. We're going to go down to description, and we're just going to call this YouTube Rex. We're going to type in custom. That's going to bring up the custom tag that uses it to summon it. And then we're going to type Y in the front of it. You're going to want to remember this name, so a really good way to make it so that this is remembered is go into your skeletal mesh name, rename that to what your custom tag is. It'll make it easier for you to remember what your custom tag is, which you're going to need for your fertilized egg and all that. At this point, we can go in and change it and have like a character status, but I'm going to do that in another tutorial. At this point, the BP is set up correctly, and then what we're going to do, we're going to scroll up. I'm going to type in game, fertilized. We're going to go to any of these. It doesn't really matter what you pick. We're going to drag that into one of these into our folder. We're going to rename that egg YouTube. I'm just going to name it Bob because that's what the name of it is. We're going to double click the egg. We're going to scroll down to where it says egg dino class to spawn. We're going to click Bob, the BP, and we're going to put that in there. We're going to go to description. We're going to change the description name to match what we're making. We're going to strict compile and save. At this point you have your fertilized egg that you need. You're going to go back into your BP for your dino. You're going to type in fertilized. This is the fertilized egg that the T-Rex you have will spawn, so you're obviously going to need the new one, otherwise you'll just get a normal Rex. At this point your character BP is set up, your egg is set up, and it is usable at this point except for the fact that it doesn't have a saddle. So we're going to scroll down. Actually, we'll scroll up. We're going to type in saddle. We're going to go to our filters, go to blueprints, and then what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down until we find the Rex saddle. You do this with any of the other dinos that you may want to make. So let's see, Plesio, Taro, Quetzal. Okay, so we have the Rex saddle right here, which is the engram. We're going to need to drag that into our folder for Bob. We're going to want to right click the engram that we just dragged in there. We're going to want to reference viewer it. This is the actual saddle. We're going to want to right click that, find in content browser. We're going to want to drag that into our folder. Now we're going to want to rename this. I'm just adding Bob to the end of it because that's what it is. Now, the way that the engrams work, it isn't exactly the same way as how you link anything else to a character BP. What we're going to do is we're going to go into the engram. We're going to link the primal to this. See how it changed to Bob? We're going to set it to give blueprint so that when you unlock it in your engrams, you're able to get it in your inventory. I'm just going to set these to 0 so that I can spawn it in automatically. I'm going to go to strict compile and save. Now the only way to link a primal saddle to a BP is to type in tag in the armor for the saddle, and you see how it says Rex, but our custom tag states a different thing. It says Y-Rex. That's our custom tag. Remember, we saved that from our custom tagline in our character BP. We're going to copy that. We're going to put that into here. That'll make it so that the custom tag is linked. We're going to go down to description. We're going to have Bob saddle. We're going to type in REQ so we can see the requirements for the recipe to make it. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to hit the trash can and I'm going to make a new one because I just want one material used. You're going to click the arrow next to the none. Takes a minute to rebuild the class hierarchy. Anytime you look at these tab things inside the dev kit, it takes a while. I'm just going to make it so that it uses metal ingot, and then so that I can just go into the test game mode and show you that, guys, that it's working. So we're just going to type in ingot. I have other types of ingot that I've created for Mystic Academy, so ignore this one. What you're going to go into is the metal ingot resource. I'm going to say 10. I'm going to go to strict compile and save. One problem you're going to run into is the fact that if you scroll down, it uses the inventory of the anvil bench to make it, so we're just going to exit out of that, strict compile and save. Then we're going to go up, we're going to go to our primal game data, we're going to double click that. My girlfriend's giving me the weirdest look in the middle of this tutorial. I wanted to check out the movie we were watching. We're going to scroll down to additional engrams. We're going to add that. These are the other ones we've added so far. We're going to go into the dino folder, go to the engram. We're going to put that in. This will make it so our saddle is in there. Next, we're going to add this to a spawn group so that it'll work. What we're going to do is we're going to type in NPC. We're going to, you won't see any of this normally. If you go into remap or anything like that, it's not going to be the same. What you're going to see is you're going to see NPC spawn entries, container additions. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to press plus. And since I'm adding a whole new one, I'm just going to start from the beginning. You're just going to see 1 or 0. You should see 0 if this is your first one. What we're going to do is you're going to find a spawner that you're going to need to do this for every spawner that you want this to spawn in on. We're just going to type in spawner into the left filter. I want to use a primal spawner for the island. I'm just going to use, let's see, we'll use the beavers one. So anywhere the beavers spawn normally on the island, your dino is going to spawn. I'm going to click it, put it in here. Click where the plus button is next to additional spawn entries. We're going to type in Bob, because this is his spawn. We're going to go to NPCs to spawn. We're going to press plus. We're going to go back into our dino folder. Click the BP, put that in here. We're going to want to go down to offsets. We're going to want to type in 300. That makes it so it spreads out if you add any more. I'll always add 300 to the X value of the offset. Then we're going to go to NPC percentage. I'm going to make this 0.5. This means that it will spawn in 50% of the time. We're going to, you can change your level offset, like you can make it so that lowest it spawns in is 100 and maximum it spawns in is 600. Now this multiplier is going to be different. It's not going to be literal 100. This might spawn in at a higher multiplication based on your difficulty. We're going to scroll down, go to where it says entry weight, and we're going to name that to 0.5, which will match the 50% probability that Bob will spawn. And at this point, we have a dino that will wild spawn at the beaver location. It still will not work at this point. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to type in fertilized. You're going to see fertilized additional egg items to spawn. You're going to want to press plus. You're going to take the egg you made. You're going to put that in here. You're going to type in dino. Ignore regular dino entries. What you're going to want to do is scroll down until you see additional dino entries. Press plus. You're going to want to take your dino entry for it, which we don't have at the moment actually. So what we're going to need to do is get a dino entry. Type in dino entry into game. There's no space in between. It doesn't matter what you're using either. We're going to take this one. I'm going to put this in here. I'm going to take this, name it for Bob. Now, just like I said before, you're going to want to remember your custom tag, because in your dino entry, you're going to need to make sure to have that custom tag. We're going to double click the dino. We're going to take the custom tag we created for Bob. and we're going to put that in there. We're going to double click character VP, go to description. We're going to copy this, go back into your dino entry, put this as your descriptive name. If you want to have a dossier, you'd put it here. For this, the dino material, this is that little bluish icon that shows up when you tame something. We're going to want to have that for Rex. So you're going to type in dino entry, icon. I'm going to scroll down till we get to the Rex and put that in there. Now this will show up correctly whenever you tame it or anything like that. You have your custom tag set up, you have your descriptive name set up, and you have your icon set up. You're going to go to strict compile and save. You're going to now be able to add this dino entry. Click dino entry, go into place that, go to strict compile. Now you have a perfectly working new dino variant that you have added to a spawner. You have saddles that you can add now. Make sure if something uses a saddle that it has the saddle. We're going to take and we're going to drag this guy out here. At this point you see he's got all his normal set up. He's got his bumpiness. He's got, I mean, we could change his eyes and everything. I'll do that in another tutorial, but at this point he's just a normal Rex it would look like. We're going to play from here. It takes a couple minutes sometimes for my dev kit to go through test game mode, so if it takes a while sometimes, you're going to want to put players only on if you're testing. We're going to go up to him. And at this point, we have a fully tamed Rex. We're going to want to take players only off. Now, as you see, if we go up and look, it says YouTube Rex, the description is correct. If we want to get the saddle, we're going to go to View Engrams, we're going to scroll down. Oh, make sure this primal game data for your world settings is set correctly, because see how this says homing trank, like that's the last one I made, so I'm going to make sure to add the primal game data into this. Then we're going to just do the same thing. We're going to go to Engrams, scroll down, you'll see the saddle. Go to, and you see, it takes metal ingot. You can make it any recipe you want. I'm just gonna give myself the resources I need to be able to show you that the saddle works. I'm going to go to craftables. We're going to make the saddle. If you guys want to know tutorials on how to change this time that it takes, just let me know. I'll make a tutorial on that. Rex, press F, and then we're going to drag our new saddle onto him. And as you see, it's a T-Rex with a brand new T-Rex variant, and it has a saddle working correctly. Set to a new spawner. Hope this was helpful for you guys. Hope to check you guys in the next episode. Talk to you later.